Hello. Hello. Welcome back. 2 days in a row of
Oh,
Silly
yeah.
Goose Book Club. I know. Yesterday we did our March read. Today is our April read, which was The Bandit Queens by Parini Shroff. And I have two hosts with me today. Would you like to both briefly introduce yourselves, talk about your various platforms, and then we'll just kind of dive right in?
All right. Hi, I'm Jan from Jan Agaton. I am Jan Agaton on YouTube and Instagram. I read all types of genres, and I don't know. I run a book club too. It's called the Full Moon Book Club. Also, all types of genres. Yeah.
Nice. Nailed it. Great.
Vampire themed Patreon. That's cool.
Yes. Love
You have
vampires.
really cool hair. Definitely add that to the list.
Thanks.
All right. I'm Hannah. I am mostly on BookTok. I feel like that's where I post the most, but I'm also here on BookTube now more recently. I'm also on Bookstagram. It's the same on all of them. Paperback Bruncher. And I also have a book club, of course, where we all have book clubs. It's called the Moody Readers Book Club. So every month is a new mood read. So it surrounds like the mood of that month. So it might be like adventurous or sad or tense. And then we talk about books that fit in that space, but we also pick like one book to encompass it for the month. And yeah, I mean, also all genres, but I think I read mostly romance and thriller for my own personal self, but I try to read different things. I'm kind of on a nonfiction kick right now for the first time in my life, so that's really
Love it.
Yeah.
The nonfiction era.
Who is she?
That's a cool concept. I didn't know you had a book club.
Twist.
That's such a cool concept.
Thanks.
Love it.
I'm so excited to have you both. I think this will be so fun. It just felt like such a fun book. I kept thinking while reading it, I'm like, I can't wait to just like hash this out with everyone because it was such a silly, goofy time. Like the twists and turns really got me.
Yeah. I'm not going to lie. I did zone out a little at the end, but that's because I was rushing and I was at work and listening to the audiobook and trying to work at the same time.
I feel you. I feel you. Elizabeth has not finished it, so it can't stay long, but here to say hello to these wonderful silly geese. Hello. Welcome. Bless you, and excited for you to finish it. Finish the book, and I'm here and mowing the lawn. Love the multitasking.
Oh my God.
I know. It's like just, it sounds like oddly cozy, you know? Just getting the chores done, hanging out in the book club.
I would never mow the lawn.
I would never mow the lawn.
I would never. I'd rather live in a jungle. Like, are you kidding?
Oh my gosh. It's like, it just makes me sneeze.
Yeah, I don't like the smell of mowed grass. And I think I'm too short for any lawnmower ever. Like, I feel like I'd be like up here and I'd be like trying to mow, you know?
I could see that. You would need one of those like old-timey grandfatherly like manual mowers that you have to push.
I would definitely chop my toe off if I tried to mow a lawn, I think, and manage.
So fun. Okay, what do we, just to start with, get a baseline, how did we feel? What did we rate this book? Did we rate this book?
Yes. I gave it a 4.
Okay.
I don't know mine yet. Like, I'll think on it.
We're marinating. Okay. I also, so far, in this moment, have given it a 4 stars. Very thoroughly enjoyed myself. It's also like not remotely what I thought it was going to be. I don't know what I thought it was going to be, but I didn't think it would be these like women in a village plotting crimes together. I don't know what expectations you guys had, or if those expectations were delivered on.
I think it was exactly what I mean, based on, did you read the synopsis? I feel like that's exactly what I expected based on the synopsis.
Okay.
I guess I didn't really think it would be as intense. I don't know why. I guess from the cover, I thought it was going to be a silly, goofy time, like a cozy mystery type of vibe. I didn't think it would be as intense, like heavy abuse and trigger warnings and stuff.
Yeah, there was more of that than I thought too.
Yeah. The one thing that kept taking me out of the story though that I wasn't really a big fan of was like all the like I get why it was there and the connections and everything, but like the story, like the legends, the lore, whatever you call it, like with that one princess or whatever, or Bandit Queen. Obviously, that's what
I was gonna say. Okay. Got it.
Oh my god. No, but like it would be just like things would be happening and there's no like separation between like when they start talking about these like old ancient stories. But like it connects to like the current situation. I just didn't like that
like interwoven throughout.
Yeah, I didn't like it felt like intermissions to me, but like it was trying to interweave, I don't know.
In the beginning, I thought I think I was just confused on what was happening at first because like the title makes you think that like of course she's going to be the Bandit Queen. Yeah. So I was trying to figure out like how this like legend is her. Like I thought that was like they were kind of saying like she's becoming that and that like maybe she was gonna change her name. Like I was overthinking it. And I started realizing like, oh no, this is just like a story that she's inspired by and that I don't know. And then I started thinking about it as like this community of like Black Widow women in the village. And then I was like, okay, I got it. We're good now.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that just like made that one thing click for me because there's a scene at one point where they talk about Black Widows and I was like, why are we talking about spiders right now? And you obviously you just made that connection for me. So that's great. That's why we're here.
I mean, I'm like a Marvel dork and then I also was like curious about like where Black Widow name came from and like all the tie-ins. So I remember like looking that up as a kid. I don't know. I was weird. Went down a rabbit hole. I was like, what is a Black Widow? Suspicious.
Suspicious. Yeah, because I'm trying to remember the context of that moment. They talk about like he would be like a male Black Widow, which like is the one species that's like not like you don't have the power as like the male of the species or something. It was like phrased something along those lines, and I'm like, that's a weird thing. I mean, okay, but like what? Who cares about Black Widows? It just went right over my head. So that's great.
I guess I missed that whole part because I listened to it mostly on audio. I followed along a little bit in the middle, but it was mostly audio. The audiobook was good, though.
I like the audiobook too.
And it helped a lot with like the pronunciations and because there was a lot of like Indian language in here. So
yes, super helpful.
Yeah.
I was wishing I would have listened to it for that.
It was nice. It took forever to find a lawn service. Got a warning from the city code for my lawn. Uh-oh.
Oh no.
Did you pay like some neighborhood like young man? Like how is this happening? I'm invested. Binges today went a lot better than Phaedra, which was our yesterday book club. I enjoyed it a lot, and it was a 4-star. Yes.
Yeah.
Same.
I feel like maybe if I reread it physically and like absorb everything, it could be a 5 in the future. Like if I paid attention to everything thoroughly, maybe. But
why was it like what was the missing star for you?
Yeah, I was going to ask you the same thing. But yeah, I think it's just because I wasn't fully focused the entire time. But like also I was able to like pinpoint, like even from the audiobook, it's rare for me to like pinpoint quotes that I'm like my ears perk and then I'm like looking for it to annotate it later. That's like rare for books for me. So that was cool. But what was the missing thing for you, Noelle?
I don't know. Like some books just have the 5-star feeling and some don't. So it was just kind of a little bit of like a gut, like, wow, I really enjoyed that, but it just wasn't quite there. But also trying to think about it, I just felt like I didn't feel like the stakes, which is funny because it's about these women like plotting to kill these various men in the village. But I didn't feel like I was ever really afraid for them or the consequences of their actions until like the very end. Like all of these things were happening and it was like, oh, well, I'm not really worried about them. Do you know what I mean? Like it was just kind of like, oh, like silly, goofy, let's kill him. And then right at the end, it kind of all escalated. But for most of the book, I was like, they seem like they have it under control. Like what's the worst that can happen?
That is true. Yeah.
Do you think? Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Do you think that's kind of, I don't know, maybe that's a little bit of the point though. Like I agree with you, like I wanted more high stakes, but the point is that like the danger is actually kind of normal. Like I feel like that was like an underlying message was like, damn, like it's rough out here for these women. And so they're almost all like under this threat of danger at all time from their husbands. Like there was this part of the book where they were like, why is it that he could go to jail if he hurt you, my friend, but if he did the same thing to me as his
Just
wife?
marriage.
Yeah.
Yeah, I highlighted that part too. And then there was a part where it was like, yeah, no one, like we're the most invisible type of people around here. So like no one's gonna suspect us. So that's why they were always like fine and getting away with stuff. So
that's true. That's true, because there's that whole point where they're like towards the end, they're like, what's even, it was like, I think like the darkest point of the book where they're like, what's the point if this is just going to keep happening? Like we could take out one of them, but there's 50 more in our village alone that could be perpetuating harm. Like, why are we going to all this trouble if it's just going to, like, if they could keep just getting away with this? So to your point, it's like, that is the idea. It's like, there are these predators causing all this harm and abuse, and these like invisible women are just kind of like, either we kill them or do something else about it. But yeah, that's interesting.
Did you read the author's note? Either of you?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that helped a lot too with like the overall understanding for me.
Yeah,
I think, I don't know, I never read a synopsis. I just like, I refuse to. Thankfully, like it's something for me, like I don't have any sort of like trauma to have to pay attention to for a content warning, so I can just like go into a book just like, let's see what's gonna happen and just like ride the wave. But I guess I was kind of anticipating more like cozy murder, more high stakes. So then when I realized like it wasn't that, then I think I just started looking for like more character development. And I think maybe we just got more of the like the lore and the friendships, which I really liked the friendship component, but maybe we would have felt more like attached and felt more of the danger if we knew more about like the main character. I feel like we didn't get really that much of her as a person. Like we got like the action moments, but I don't really know if we like got her like reasoning a lot behind things.
Yeah.
I just loved how she remained not wanting kids. That is so freaking rare in books. Like I know Noelle, we talk about it all the time. So like we found one.
I know. And there was a quote, right? It's like, I think the first chapter because there's this like ongoing bit of like these women struggling with motherhood and then being like, oh, but the joys of motherhood. Yeah. And there's a quote right at the beginning where Gita is like, oh, I don't have the joys of motherhood, but I do have the joys of money and sleep. And I had to like pause and just have a laugh because it was it's like so good. I'm like, I'm gonna have to lock that one away. Like that was priceless.
And then the supportive Kareem being like, if you really don't want kids, you really shouldn't have them. Like like you do you is basically what he said, and I was like, wow.
Yeah,
it was refreshing.
That's a good word.
We do love Kareem, but I mean, he also, to his credit, because when they were having that conversation, the two of them, Gita in her head is like, he's gonna assume that I wanted them and like be apologetic or like is prepared for the conversation to go very differently, and Kareem is kind of like, well, I mean, regardless of like whatever circumstances may have led to you being childless, like are you happy about it, or like do you wish it was different? And she was like, oh, like this is super refreshing. Like I've never had this conversation before.
Yeah, she never felt like she even had a choice or like a voice. Whoa, rhyming. But yeah.
Hi, Laura. Love it.
Hello.
Having kids made me feel that less people should have kids. Love it. Because also, like, if you want them, you should have them. But if you don't want them, it's like you shouldn't necessarily have to feel that pressure that I feel like Gita feels from most people in her life. That are like, oh, the joys of motherhood. And she's like, I don't know if I want those particular joys. Was like a major theme throughout the book.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And then like she dealt with like annoying children in it too, which was hilarious. And like she was just like grateful for not having kids. And I'm like, that's me and Joey every day. Every day.
There were so many good moments too where she would like with her friends' kids or with Kareem's kids, she'd be like, "Oh, like this is a good kid. Like you have a good kid. I enjoy spending time with them." Or like Kareem's son, where she's like at his house that one day and like, "Oh, I would love to see your birthday balloons. I would love to talk to you like about your birthday," or like indulge in this like child's joy and conversation, and then later be like, yeah, no, I'm good on my own. You know, it was nice to see that perspective too. It's like she enjoys the company, enjoys being around them, but it's like, yeah, doesn't need to be a part of my own life.
Yeah.
Yeah. People usually, I think, assume like if you don't want kids, they're like, oh, you must hate kids. You're not good with kids. Like that's what people always tell me. They're like, oh, but you would be such a good mom, or like, don't you like kids? I'm like, kids are great, and yeah, I was a nanny and I worked in childcare for years. But it doesn't like I never said I'm scared to be a mom or think I'd be bad at it. I said I don't want to.
Yeah, I hate them. I don't want them. I'd be bad at it. I'd be so bad at it. I would rather like I say it all the time. I'm not even gonna go into it. I can go on forever, but yeah, I'm the opposite of all
Whole
that.
spectrum. Yes.
You would be like the moment when she's like pretending to like curse them for like picking on and bullying the other kids. That would be you.
Listen, I always say if I did have one and they like were starving, I'd be like, dude, but I want this book. I'm sorry. Like I'm too selfish to have kids. I'm sorry. I can't. And I think they're gross and annoying. Like, and yeah. No offense to anyone who has kids in the chat.
They would probably agree that they're also gross and annoying. I think most parents would.
Like I can't do.
But you know, the joys.
But the joys.
So rewarding. Which was like, how do we feel, leading me up to that, how do we feel about the humor as a whole in the book?
So good. Top tier, for sure.
Yeah, that was something I didn't really expect. And I felt like it just like delivered. Like I was giggling, and I don't like usually laugh out loud reading books. Like they're not funny. I don't know.
I was laughing out loud for sure. The sarcasm and like her little rivalries, like with Saloni and Farah and everything. Yeah. And like the weird, like, what was that one? It was like a baby raccoon or something, like an incompetent baby raccoon or something like that.
Well, yeah. It was like a kit or something.
Yeah, and then there was another one that really made me laugh. It was like something about being an ingrown hair, and I died. I was like, that's such like an insult, like that it gets under your skin type of insult, you know, like literally.
I remember that too, because I think that was towards the end. I think it was to Ramesh, where it's like it was like a very high stakes, very angry moment, and she calls him. She's like, "Don't be such an ingrown hair." That's like such a silly insult to use in like the height of the moment, but I loved it.
Yeah, so that type of humor for sure. I was like, oh.
I wish our world lived more like a modern day village so kids naturally had more connections with other adults who would enjoy that level. Exactly. It's like I enjoy kids being in my life. I just don't know that I need to be anyone's mother, you know?
Except
grosser than you think. Yeah, I believe that also.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I hope the world becomes more accepting of women making choices without so much weight attached to it. For sure. Love the humor, and it was nice to have the balance with other heavy situations. Agreed. Exactly. It was like such a good balance, like such a good mix. And it like just allowed such like brevity, almost like I guess the word is comic relief, because I knew that there would be this like humor sprinkled throughout that it did feel like such a heavy book so often, but it didn't. At the same time, it also felt very lighthearted, and I can't remember anything that I've read recently that has a similar mix like that. Like there were so many like silly, funny moments, but it also covered so many like heavy, dark things.
Yeah, for sure.
Well,
I can think of a couple memoirs. Like Jenny Lawson does that really well. Like the balance of humor and heavy stuff. Yeah, Simu Liu's was kind of like that too, but not really. But yeah. So memoirs for sure. But fiction books, I can't think of recent ones either. Sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I feel like the dark moments too would just like kind of throw me for a loop because like it would just be like bam, like it would just like hit you, like it was just intermittent, just like so. I don't know. It's just like such a normal part of their lives, but it was like super jarring to read. So I think without the like comedic relief, like it just would have been a really hard book to keep reading, especially like me putting myself on a time crunch to read it in like the last possible minute. I don't think I would have been able to read it quickly because like heavy books, I just really have to like put it down for a minute, come back to it later and like process. But like because of those moments, I could keep going and it helped.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it was like, because like I feel like most books put the intense parts at the end of chapters and it's like, you know, period type thing. But like this was like just mid sentence, hits you with abuse and like it's just wild.
It was very matter of fact a lot of the times, and I think that's it. Like, I feel like you nailed it, Hannah, because it's like it to them, the shitty thing is like that is like a normal part of their life. Like to the normal, like modern person in the US, I guess that would be like, oh my God, like so shocking, so surprising, so horrible. And to these women in their village, it's like, that's just like a shitty, unfortunate part of their day or their life, which is like reading it was super jarring every time something like that was brought up or something like that happened. But it was just like that much more powerful knowing that's how it was delivered as like a normal part of their life. For them to finally be like, yep, I've had enough, let's kill him, is like, okay, you go, girl. Let's get him.
Yeah.
What were your guys' feelings like at the end? Just like knowing when, like, okay, let me like back up. But like, just what you're saying, Noelle, made me think of this because at the end they say the statement of like, well, what are we just gonna like kill everyone? So I
Right.
feel like that's kind of like, wow, now we've really got like the full picture of the community. But I don't know, it doesn't necessarily like end sad, but I was just curious, like, what were your emotions like when you finished reading? Like, how did you feel? Like, did you feel like there was resolution? Did you feel like you were sadder than when you started? Like, I don't know, just curious.
There is this like bleak, like this like hopelessness almost, where they like have that realization at the very end. Spoilers if anyone is still here that hasn't finished it, I guess. But then I also felt like the deal they made with that one like mobster, whatever he was calling himself, the Don, where it seemed to me that they were asking him like, hey, you do your thing in your circles and your connections and establish not to mess with the women in this village. So it felt like they had this like reluctant sisterhood almost. They're like, look, we have experience lying to the police and covering for ourselves, and we've done it before. We're not afraid to do it again. You tell that to your other crime buddies. And he kind of was like, okay. So it felt like that's how I took it in the ending of like they felt like they're gonna have this little protective like crime circle sisterhood in a way. Mm-hmm. And it still is like terrible things can still happen, whether it's in their village or in the city around them. I don't know. But we also at the very end get Gita, she like makes this comment at the very, very end where she goes to see Ramesh in like her in-laws house and is looking at the refrigerator and is like, huh, well, my refrigerator is much nicer. And so we get this like final picture of like the life that she's made and the success that she's made for herself, which I felt like, okay, they're going to be okay.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I didn't even, yeah, like I said, I rushed the ending, but I loved the epilogue. Like I definitely felt like I don't think I was sadder than I was when I started because of the character growth. Like Gita definitely had character growth and she had so many realizations about like like, yeah, he was always a part of her life, but she can like move on, and like just because like she loved him doesn't mean that she has to stay with him, and like all these realizations about love and marriage in general, and how it's like a choice now for her. So yeah, that's how I felt at the end.
Yeah, I liked her a lot. I think we did get, from a lot of the book, I felt like we only saw Gita through other people, or how she felt like people were seeing her. And in just the last little bit, we finally, I felt, got her like real personality when she's like confronting Ramesh a little bit. And she's like, you know what, I don't have to like tone myself down or fit into what you want me to be. I don't have to say the apology that you make me say. And who cares if people think I'm a witch? Like, she has this a kind of like epiphany, being like, well, I know exactly how people see me, and it's my choice about whether I care or not. And then we really see her. I felt like that's when we got to see her actually have her personality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if it was that energy throughout the whole book, this might have been 5 stars. Like, from Gita's perspective, if she kept like, if we kept getting a lot of her inner monologue about like self-worth and everything, then it probably would have been 5 stars.
I think it almost felt like, so it's 5 years before her husband comes back, right? It almost in my head feels like she was like living in this kind of like little fog where she didn't like, I don't know, she didn't really have any friends. Like, yeah, she was like establishing herself without a husband, and she had money now and a business, but even so, like, she never acted like she was like passionate about it that we knew of or anything like that. Like, we never got that personality like you're saying. And so it feels like a bigger, I guess, awakening than at the end. But like, I just wasn't really like rooting for her as much as I would have been if I would have like felt more attached. Like, I was excited, but, you know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so much changes in her life just in like this like one little brief period that Ramesh wouldn't have even have known. Like, in the end, where everyone is, that suddenly there's like a whole crowd in Gita's house, all being held at gunpoint, and whatever his name is, BB or something, he keeps saying, he like says to Ramesh, what the hell, I thought that you said she had no friends and was like a lonely spinster, and now the whole village is here. It was like such a funny thing to say, but also like gives you the perspective of how much has changed in Gita's life in just like the recent, just the span of the book. Which was like a strange way to frame that, I guess, but it got the point across.
This is like a really random side note, but that scene in my brain, for some reason, like the visual that my brain came up with, because I'm really bad at like picturing things, was like the beginning of Hocus Pocus, when like the kids are hiding and like and like the witches come in. Like, that's like the house I was picturing, and then them like tying each other up, and like, I don't know, it was weird.
I'm also really bad at picturing things. I pictured just nothing, but like, but yeah, that's funny. Wow. Now I want to watch Hocus Pocus.
Yes. What an atmosphere. It was like such a specific, just like how thoroughly they bungled that like hostage situation was like the highest stakes moment of the book, but also like the funniest scene, I thought. Was just like it. They thought they were so in control, and then it went so sideways so fast, but I loved it.
It was like a sitcom.
Yes. It was like, how many jokes can we put in here?
Yeah, I feel like this whole book was like a sitcom. But yeah, just because like, yeah, I didn't feel attached to them to the point where I was like, yeah, I can't think of words, my own words. I'm just repeating everything Hannah says, apparently. But it just felt like I was like grazing through their lives, like from the outside. On my brain. I'm sorry. Move on.
Okay, the dog scene though. The dog scene was like one of the best parts of the whole book.
Yes.
When she stole the dog. I was like, yes, you did. You stole it, dog. And like there was, like, at one point, who was it? Someone thought like, they're like, what was that? And she's like, oh, just like indigestion, like my stomach. And
oh yeah, because they were making fun of her age, right? That part.
Yeah. Like while she was there, they're like, oh, you know, my mother-in-law or something, like, you know how it gets with age. And then she ends up using that as her cover to steal the dog. It's like, oh, age. My body makes noises.
So good.
I also love the scene of I don't think it was Gita, but one of the women were when she was buying alcohol. I love that scene for some reason because she was just so naive and like just wholesomely innocent, not knowing what all these alcohol things were. I'm sorry, Joey's
I
like,
think it was Gita.
it was okay.
Yeah, and like the shopkeeper is like questioning her. He's like, "Who's it for?" She's like, "Me. I love to drink. Drinking is the best."
She was like, I love inebriation or something. It's died.
Which I think was Kareem, right? And so he's across the counter being like, okay.
Yeah, because he owned. Yeah, I think it was Kareem too.
Yeah, he's like, this one packet will like get you plenty toasted. And she's like, well, then I'll take 2.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because she doesn't drink. So yeah, that makes sense. It definitely was Gita.
Yeah, no, I got a good chuckle out of me. She does curse a lot, and I love that people are constantly giving her shit about how she curses, and she's like, shut up, I can talk how I want to. But then the insults were like, you ingrown hair. Isn't she in her 30s? The age comments were confusing. Yeah, I think she was like late 30s.
But also, like, I feel like that's the whole like culture thing of like, oh, you're motherless in your 30s and you don't have a husband. Like now you are an old spinster.
Totally. Yeah, the kids are like, you're a witch. Like you live alone. You have no kids. Like that's I guess like she's seen as like invisible and purposeless.
I feel like it's still kind of like that even in like the US to less extremes for sure, but like I'm 29 without kids and I feel like I get these comments, you know, and I'm not even as old as her.
For sure. Yeah, even people that are like without partners, you know, it's like they get comments all the time. They're like, oh, well, you'll find your person, even if they have no intention of being partnered whatsoever. It's like, well, you could ask me if I'm like happy with my life or what other things I have going on, but it's like seen as like that's like the epitome of like happiness and purpose is to like have a family, like have someone to share your life with or take care of. And so the fact that she seemingly has none of those things is like, oh, you useless old lady.
Yeah, but wasn't she the same age as Saloni? Or no?
I think so, because I think they grew up together.
Okay, that's what I thought. But then there was this one, unless I heard wrong, because I was driving when I heard this part. But there was like a passcode or something, like on a padlock. I don't know, and it was 2809, which was Saloni's birthday. And like 09.
Well, it's probably a flip-flop, so it's probably September 28th. Because don't they do it like they might do it backwards? Like everyone besides the US does like, right? They do the day first and then the month. So it's probably just the day, not the year.
I think you're probably right.
2809.
Like, so this 28th of September is probably.
Whoa! I thought I was like February 809.
You're thinking too hard.
I was like, damn, she's young and this is supposed to be written like, okay, I was so confused. Okay, got it.
Got you.
Oh yeah, she has like young kids. Like there's no way.
Yeah, I was like, wait.
Yeah.
Unless like, you know, she's the author's thinking it'll be like.
Oh, I got you.
A timeless, you know.
Timeless.
But
how do we? That's a good segue though. The relationships of like all of the women together, at like as complicated as they all were. What do we feel about all the ladies' dynamics and their like lone group as a whole?
I liked seeing them bicker. That was fun. I don't remember like I feel like it was more forgettable when they were getting along. Like I was just like, no, but then when I heard them like insulting each other, I was like, all ears.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, they had some good. They were all very like quick-witted, which I did love.
Yeah. There was one where it was like, hindsight is almost a bigger bitch than you are, or something towards the end. And I thought that was funny.
That's good. Sarah, I think her name was super annoying. She was so frustrating, but like I get that we had to have some sort of like conflict. Like everything couldn't go smooth sailing. But
Yeah,
she was like, every time she was around, I was just like, here we go. Like I was just not about it.
Yeah. I think what struck me the most about all of them like interacting with each other is that I don't think they would have chosen to be friends, except that the kind of the circumstances threw them together, and they had this like a level of sisterhood where they were like, well, god damn it, I'm gonna support you because what you're going through sucks, and therefore, like, woman to woman, I'm gonna support you even if I don't like you as a person. So it was like this complicated layer of like women's friendships where it's like, I don't think I'd hang out with you on a daily basis, but that doesn't mean that I wish you ill. Which I think a lot of books that try to tackle like girl power sisterhood miss that piece. It's like, we all love each other, kumbaya, sparkles and rainbows, when it's like, I don't necessarily want to be your friend, but I also don't want bad things to happen to you.
Yeah, it was just like a matter of solidarity at that point.
Exactly.
Well, it's like, what's the biggest evil? And in this book, the biggest evil is the men. So like they had to come together. That's like real. But but they all had to like come together. And I don't have like enough background to truly understand like the parts about like the religion and the caste systems, just because like that's not something I'm familiar with. But there were certain parts of the book where they would be like, oh, this person wouldn't even be allowed in my house because like they're not a part of this religion, or they're from like a lower class. And so there was all of this like weird divide that in normal situations, like you're saying, like they wouldn't interact. Like even after this, like they're probably not all going to be besties, you know, like they're not, it's not that like rah girl power. But at the end of the day, like the men are the worst. So it's not, you know, I don't know.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of like a pick your poison moment.
Good pun.
Oh. I didn't do that on purpose. Wow. We can say I did though.
The bonobos. I love that that was like kind of an ongoing bit too. And then there's like at the end when Farrah shows up at the hostage standoff, she's like, I'm trying to be a bonobo. They're like, why are you here? She's like, I want to be a bonobo.
And like she gets so defensive. Like someone was like a monkey and she's like, an ape.
Yeah. They were good friends, and then they fell apart, and then coming together again. Yeah, two of them, Geeta and who else? They were friends, and then had that big falling out over her like engagement to Ramesh, and then it was like them kind of finding their way back to each other. So that's true. Two of them did have a genuine friendship, but some of the others I felt like the twins, both very annoying. Didn't like either of the twins, but it's like, you know, they all just banded together and kind of did what they needed to do as a group of gals taking care of each other.
Yeah, at the end they said that like Ramesh lied about Saloni or something. I think I missed the lie. Because I know they had a falling out, but like Ramesh lied about something in regards to Saloni, and I missed it. I don't know if y'all remember, but
it was like, I don't know what he had lied about her, but she had like promised Geeta's parents to keep the secret about Ramesh and Ramesh's parents, like swindling Geeta's parents out of all of their wealth, when Geeta thought like, oh, like this charming young man agreed to marry me without a dowry, when like it was actually all done in secret behind the scenes. and Geeta's parents didn't want her to know. And for some reason, her friend knew and like agreed to keep it a secret. I felt like that was like the big like falling out, because she was trying to tell Geeta, like, you don't want to be with him. Trust me, you don't want to be with him. I can't tell you why. And she took it as like jealousy, or they must have been fooling around together or something.
Okay, yeah, I remember that, but like at the end, it was literally the second to last page. It says, "You were rotten for marrying me, for lying about Saloni, for letting those girls be abused, for letting your parents rob mine." Like, what did he lie about Saloni about?
I feel like he was just like saying, like, I think at one point, like, he was like, yeah, she probably wants me. Like, he would say just like dumb things like that to just like diss.
Oh,
I don't feel like there was like, maybe I'm forgetting, but like, I don't feel like there was like one big thing, but I felt like he was just like always just like shit talking her just to
okay,
keep distancing them.
gotcha.
Yeah, I can't think of anything else either.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense then. Thanks.
I mean, I might not understand it either. I don't know.
Because the only other thing I can think of is when they were piecing together, they all kind of realized separately that Ramesh wasn't actually blind. And one of them realized, oh, you called Solani fat without allegedly being able to see her or anything. And maybe that's what she was like referring to about lying. But there was also all these other comments that he made, like during their marriage, I think, that she could have been referring to.
Gotcha. Also missed the part that said he wasn't blind.
What?
What the fuck? Yeah, there was a time today when I was listening to like the last like 50 pages where my coworker kept talking to me. So I was like, I need to finish this book by book club. Like, just stop. And she kept talking to me about stupid TikToks and stuff. Oh, I don't care. So that's why I was like highly distracted. But yeah, I will reread this for sure though someday physically. Because I loved it. It was good.
It was good. I didn't really see that coming, that he wasn't blind. Like, I briefly thought that, like, when he got there, like, oh, what if he's not blind? But then, like, so much time had passed, and I was like, well, wouldn't you know? Like, I guess I don't know. I feel like you'd know. I thought they would figure it out, but I guess he's really good at faking it for the most part.
Yeah, he was a professional manipulator.
But if he was secretly also drunk all the time, he might have been more like clumsy and like not good at moving around as it is. So maybe that like helped his story. I don't know.
True. I felt like I thought that he was blind because there was also that one-off comment from Kareem like earlier in the book where he's like, oh, it's such a bummer that he's blind. And she's like, what did you say? Like, how do you, did you see him? How do you know that? And then it was just like brushed over and 200 pages went by. But then it was like that, like little bell went off in my head. Like, oh, another character has previously validated this, that I, as the reader, didn't question it, which I guess is just clever writing, because you got me. I didn't see it coming either.
Yeah.
I think it added to like the comedic effect of them all like separately figuring it out though, and just like showing up at the house like one by one by one. It's like every time like someone would knock at the door, it's like, who is it now? Yes.
Yeah, that was such a good. The whole scene was so good. And then I thought he actually shot that one gal at the end. What is it?
Mm-hmm.
Kashi? Something? She was like one of the latecomers and gets shot, and it's like, oh my god, someone actually died, and then the chaos just kept happening. Let's see, what else was on my list? I feel like, do we feel like we've missed anything? Other than the actual murders we haven't talked about?
I just have like specific pages in my notes, so I'm like looking through all of them.
I think the most like realistic part for me was like the female friendships, I would say. Like the fact that they had like the falling out, I felt like is such like a relatable story to so many people. It's a little harder to relate to like murder and like all of these other really traumatic things, thankfully. But like I feel like so many friends, like you fall apart when like someone gets in a relationship. That's just so normal. So maybe it's not that same extreme, but I felt like reading that, I was like, oh, like you can relate, like you've been there, you know? So that part to me, I was like, oh, like maybe it wasn't like this cheesy, like too much girl power, but I liked that like the friendship at the core was like one of the strongest parts of the story.
True.
Liked that.
Yeah, and I like that they all have their own, like, not independence, but they all have their own craft. Like, they're all in this lone group as women for a reason, so that it's like, which I thought was interesting because, like, we as Americans, I think, typically see debt as like a scary, bad thing, which is something the author talked about in her author's note. But then in India, these women in their lone group, that's like a source of freedom as long as the men in their lives are cool with it. But that like allows them to pursue a business or an art or something of their own making as long as they can pay back their loan. But it like gives them this sense of autonomy is maybe the word I was looking for. That on top of the community of like kind of their like shaky friendships with the other women in their loan group together, I think felt like the most grounded part of the book to me too.
I really liked her dynamic with Kareem. Like, and it really, like on page 204, when he was talking about his ex-wife, and then she goes, "Did you fight?" And he said, "Of course." And he said, "Never physical though." And then she goes, "Don't you all hit once in a while? It's not beating, not really." And I was like, that alone was jarring. So like the realities that like Kareem like put to light, I guess, for her, I love those moments.
Yeah, even when they're in the city that first time and she's like, she kind of saw him, I think, as just like a way to have this connection to get into the city at first. But then once they're there, they're walking around and they're having these conversations and she feels like, oh, this person is taking me seriously. This person is looking at me when he speaks to me and is interested in what I have to say. And you see how much of a novelty that is for her is like both so heartbreaking and so sweet that she's like experiencing that again, if not for like maybe the first time in a long time, was like a really special dynamic.
Yeah.
I like to, like, even though, like I said, I'm usually like the romance reader, I liked that that wasn't a big part of the ending. And
Yes.
I don't know, one of my biggest frustrations when I'm reading books is like, well, first of all, when like they've never had any interest in wanting to have kids the whole time, and then in that blog they're like pregnant or have a child, and I'm like, where did this come from? Because you're a career woman the entire book. So that really gets me, but it also just like gets me when like it's all like pretty in a bow like that. Sometimes it's nice, but sometimes it's frustrating. So I feel like this book, she could have easily just been like, oh, now she's loved and she's happy and like she's getting divorced to be with Cream. But even like during that scene when he's like, oh, like, are you getting, like, he did like a veiled gesture or whatever on her head. And he's like, oh, because he's asking if she wants a divorce so that she can get remarried. And she's like, no, it's for me. I want my name back. And I was like, good. That's what I want. This is great. This is a good ending. I'm here for it.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah, that's true. I think that would have taken away from her arc and her story if she was like, yes, I'm divorcing you so that Kareem and I can be together. It was like, no, it's for me.
Yeah, I definitely like that part of the ending. It made a lot more of an impact than if it were the other way around.
And it's like open-ended too, where like if that's what you really wanted as the reader, like you could assume they're probably still like fooling around or whatever. Like we don't know.
Right, yeah. True. I just love that she got to really have her moment, like with him just fully being like resorting to like having to write things down and living, at his parents' house, still a drunk, and her walking in there being like, I get to say my piece, you're going to sign my paperwork, and I'm going to leave and go back to my happy life, was like a very, very satisfying ending for me.
It was intense, though.
It was
It
intense.
was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Like, maybe I just think of it because of the name Bandit, but like, you guys have probably seen Holes, right? His Bandit. And I was like, you are living up to like the Bandit title now. Like that moment, I was like, oh, she is in like the Bandit League. Like, you got scary, and I like it.
I have not seen Holes.
Please do.
Dang.
It's so amazing.
'Cause I just remember the freaking like trailer for it on Disney Channel coming up with a stupid song. And I don't like Shia LaBeouf's face.
Oh.
Yeah. I don't like his face, so I don't know. I tried it.
He's not that bad in it, to be fair. Like, I'm not a fan either, but like, I feel like you can forget it's him because he's little. He's little. He's like a little kid.
He's little.
True. It is like older now. That is crazy.
Yeah.
Would have liked more Kareem banter, but yeah, I was into the ending. Yeah, I did like his character a lot.
Yeah, the banter in this in general was good for all the characters, I feel like.
It was very just like sharp. Like I just liked how they all spoke and they all were smart people. Even Farah, like that one got me too. Like I was so bought into her just being an idiot. And then the twist of her being like super conniving the whole time and like had tricked Geeta into like playing right into her hands so that she would be an accomplice and she could use that to blackmail her, was like, oh man, I did not see that coming for you as a character. But they all had like their different little quirks and their different little ways of speaking together. I think all of the characters were very well written and very easy to tell apart.
Mm-hmm. That's a huge feat, actually. Now that you say that, I didn't even think about it, but I get confused when there's too many characters, like every single time. And I didn't get confused in this book, even without the audiobook. Like usually I need the audiobook to help me with that. And I feel like I didn't really get lost at all this time. Kudos.
Yeah. At least with the women. With the men, I got kind of confused.
They didn't matter.
Yeah,
they didn't last very long either. Yeah. I was rooting for something to happen between Geeta and Kareem just because I like the romantic plots, but I feel like it would have diminished her really owning her life. Yeah, and like Hannah said, I felt like it's pretty open-ended too in the epilogue. But I mean, she also does call him in the heat of the moment. She calls him, "Oh, my boyfriend will be here." So like, you could read into that too, I think.
I just realized that everything's like so quick-witted and everything because the author is also an attorney, and I was like, "Yep, checks out." Like, can you imagine being a whole attorney and then also writing this good of a book? Like, what the hell?
No.
Like, how does she have time?
That's wild. I think from the author's note, it was like, this was her like pandemic project.
Oh, yeah, she did say that. It was something about like I think she used the word joys, actually. She was like focusing on that. So that's why she put so much humor in it in the midst of the pandemic. For the author's note. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the joy, cozy comfort during the pandemic, something like that.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah. What a time.
And I love this cover. Can we talk about this cover? Like, wow.
5-star cover.
Yeah.
The colors, like they just all work so well. And I have these tabs were perfect.
Those are.
Oh my gosh.
It's
like the perfect match.
I know. But
I know. Like I want it like movie poster size. I would hang that in my house.
Mm-hmm. It looks like it could be a movie poster, actually.
Yeah. And then Yellowface is gonna come along with also the eyes. Like, is this gonna be a new thing in covers?
Maybe that is the new cover trend. You might be onto something. Like solid color with like different body parts.
Yeah. Interesting.
Has anyone read Finlay Donovan is Killing It? It's got the whole let's kill her husband's vibe. I have not.
Yeah. Yeah. I gave it 3 stars. And I don't have an interest in continuing the series.
I read the audiobook, and I think if I just would have read the physical book, I wouldn't have been as into it. But like the audiobook made it really like, I don't know, like you were like racing through the story, and it was really fun. So if I do the next one in audiobook, I'll do it. But
yeah, I think I did hybrid. I think I did both. I actually pitched this to Liv's library yesterday on her live show, and she was like, "Oh, it sounds like Finlay Donovan." So it's funny that you say that. Oh, isn't it your next book club pick, Noelle?
Finlay Donovan?
Mm-hmm.
Nope.
Oh. I thought, because like I was watching your book club picks because I told you I bought Scorched Grace, and in the mentions, the book's mentioned. I guess you just mentioned it in the.
Oh, I must have mentioned it in comparison to Bandit Queens. I just forgot that I did that.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Full circle moment. No, my next book club pick though, sweet segue, is YN or Your Name by Esther Yee for the month of May, which is like, I'm super excited. It's about this woman who's like obsessed with this K-pop boy band and she writes fan fiction about it. And the book is written as like a Your Name self-insert fan fiction. But then she ends up going to South Korea to try and like find the boy band or the star of her favorite boy band, and then mysterious shit starts happening. So that's our read this month. And then Scorched Grace is June.
They also have such stellar covers too. All 3 of these books.
I do love a good cover.
Silly Goose.
Is that my silly goose Joey?
What's up?
We're still live, so don't say anything stupid.
Oh.
Welcome. You just barely made it to Silly Goose Book Club, Joey.
Yeah.
Nice of you to join us.
Thanks.
Do either of you have any cool, fun content things in the works that you want to plug before we go?
No, but I did find out that
Shut up.
the cover was in the dark.
Tell
cover-
him, Joey.
He found out one of his book covers glows in the dark, apparently, just now.
Ooh.
it is cool, actually. I'm
fun.
here for it.
I'm almost done editing my first, like, booktok one.
Ooh.
You know, like, I'm always one to, like, I fucking hate booktok. I hate all the stupid displays. And, like at Barnes & Noble.
You're
My
so
coworkers...
bitter.
Huh?
I said you're so bitter.
I am. It's so annoying. And plus, because I work social media marketing, so like I'm forced to be on TikTok through work, and like I don't want to be there. And so anyway, yeah. So I'm reading booktok books that are similar to my 5-star reads.
Ooh.
So that's going up tonight after this once I finish editing it. So that's fun.
Super fun.
BookTok's not that bad. Come on.
I know, I was gonna say Hannah's about to be like, and on BookTok.
I've been like such a slacker. My job has been so busy, and like I'm in the process of moving, so I'm like sitting on editing a bunch of stuff. I have I went like gift shopping for a friend. I went to like a really big Barnes & Noble. I'm like, I never go to Barnes & Noble, but Omar was like, look, we're going to sell out for content. I was like, okay, let's do it. So we went to Barnes & Noble, and then I got my friend a gift, and like we did like a little vlog together. It was just super dorky.
We're going to sell out for content. That's me with this vlog, literally.
Yep. I was like, I'll go to Barnes & Noble for some content every once in a while. Why not? So I have that one, and then I did a book thrifting, but I decided to try something different because I do a lot of like thrifting on BookTok. And that's usually just like something I do for fun. I'm like, I'm bored today. What should I do? I'm going to go to the thrift store. So I made like a longer form version of that for YouTube that I need to finish editing. And I did books and clothes. So we'll see if that even performs. I'm like, I want a hybrid interest a little bit and branch out.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Love it. Love it. Well, thank you both for reading this Silly Goofy time with me and talking to me about it and being on Silly Goose Book Club. It's been a joy and a delight. The joys of book club, if you will.
Joys of Silly Geese.
Love it.
Yes. Yes, anyone that wants to read YN, we will be here a month from now. Otherwise, I will see you around on the internet and follow these fellow silly gooses wherever you go. Love you. Bye.